Yeah. Should be fine. I don't want to cheat on Sunday night's blot. I want it to be like a regular full blot, and then like just have a shorter blot for the scene. But there's a small chevra, so it's like around 10 people showing right now.
Nice.
So some of the present company here is not able to make it. Some of the older statesmen are going to be home. So
Where?
People on Zoom who are not going to be able to make it here in person. So, okay, tonight just one block. We're learning Maseches Shabbos, Daf Kuf Nun Beis. After tonight, we're getting really, really close to the end. Tonight is pretty much Agadata Mitchila Ba'ad Sofa. Some fascinating ideas, the power of tears, Lativusa Ulibriusa, ideas about aging and getting older and how the body slowly declines over the course of time. The age of 40 being a pivotal point, kind of like the peak, and then a slow decline after that, as the Gemara will hint to here. A Gemara that is a marimakom for trash talking, as we will soon see, a fascinating banter between two people in the Gemara. Really requires Omer Dorsheni, just fascinating Gemaras, and a couple of other various ideas throughout. So let's get started. From the bottom of Kufnan Aleph, Amud Beis, and we are 6 lines from the bottom of the page in the middle of the line, and we are beginning with the pasuk that starts with the word Ad. And the pasuk reads, Ad asher lo sechshach hashemesh v'ha'or, zo padachas v'hachotem. This is the forehead and the nose. As people age, they begin to take a little bit of a toll. V'hayareach, the pasuk continues, zo neshama. This is the soul. The word yareach is a reference to the soul. V'hakochavim elu halistos. These are the cheeks of a person which begin to change as they get older as well. The pasuk continues, v'shavu avim achar hageshem. What does that mean? Zema or eino shel adam sheholech achar habechi. The more a person cries, the more their eyes have trouble seeing, as we'll see in this comment right now. Amar Shmuel, Hai Dimasad Arba'in Shinin Hadra. The crying that a person will do up until age 40, all of the crying that you'll do then, Hadra, you can go back to your original health after that point without anything to worry about. But all tears that happen afterwards, they take a toll on you, and you cannot fully recover from them. There was an eye balm this eye medication that they used to put on their eyes when they would cry to try to make it improve. It's your local wrinkle reducer type of medication. Ad arba'in shinin mirvach. Up until age 40, this would actually help to improve your eyes after extensive crying. From here on, after age 40, even if you would fill up the brush with this kuchla, a very thick brush, a very thick layer of the medication, it wouldn't make a difference. Okume mokim, it may sustain you as you are, but arvuche lo mirbach, it will not make you any better. My kamashmon, what does this come to teach us? The kama de'alim mikuchla tfei malu. The more you put on of the kuchla up until age 40, the more helpful it is. But at age 40, the medication can only keep it as status quo, but it cannot improve. Rav Chanina, unfortunately, his daughter, unfortunately passed away. And when she passed away, lo hava kabachi Allah, he didn't cry that much when she passed away. And his wife obviously noticed this and called him out on it. Amra le divisu, his wife said, Tarnagolta apekas mi besach. What, you had one chicken leave the coop? This is not a big deal to you? Why aren't you crying? Is it equivalent to a chicken leaving your house? I don't understand why you're not a broken soul. Amar Allah, he said back to her, Tarte, I should lose out on 2 things. Tichla, I should lose out on my daughter whose life has been completed. The Ivra, and I should also become blind with all the tears, with all the crying. I'm over the age of 40. So it's not healthy for me to be crying so much. Savar Allah, he was of the opinion, Rav Chanina was of the opinion, Kihada Amar Rav Yochanan Mishum Rav Yossi Bar Ktsarta, and that is, what was his opinion? Sheish Dama was saying there are 6 motivators for crying that generate tears. Shalosh Yafos v'Shalosh Ros. 3 are good reasons, and 3 are good for you, I should say. 3 are bad for you. Shel Asham, of smoke, Shel Bechi, and Shel Bechi, Rashi says, last Rashi on the page, and the inner margin there, Shel Bechi mitoch Avil v'Tzara, Shel Bechi, which is just sad crying. Top of Kufnan Beis Madalef, Shel Beis Hakise. Rashi points out, top Rashi, Dibra Maskul Shel Beis Hakise mitoch Yisur, because he's in pain going to the bathroom. Rose, all of those are bad. However, if you're crying Shel Sam due to a medication, Shel Schok, obviously, the tears of laughter are fantastic. V'shel peros yafos. What does shel peros mean? What does it mean eating fruit? Rashi says, "Kigon reach hardal," things that have a sharp, you cut onions, raw onion seeds, pepper, some of these types of things. Those types of tears are all considered to be good for you. The pasuk here continues another drasha all about the aging. I'm just going to read the psukim from with the nekudos because I did not memorize all of Tanakh. And the pasuk says, "Biyom sheyazu shomrei habayis v'his avsu." When the shomrei habayis, the protectors of the home, would shake v'his avsu, and they would kind of lean over a little bit in old age. What does the pasuk mean? Biyom sheyazu shomrei habayis elu haksalim hatzlos. This is like parts of your torso, like the flesh near the ribs and the ribs themselves. What does it mean that they were stooped over? This is their legs, their thighs, which would take the toll as they got older. The grinders were nullified. Your teeth could not break down food as well as they could. A reference, of course, elu einayim, and that is another pasuk that speaks about how people age, that their body begins to change its appearance, to change its tone. And again, we've seen now at least twice, maybe 3 times at the age of 40 is that moment. A story in the Gemara. Amar le Kesar, the Rabbi Yehoshua ben Chananya. The Caesar said to Yehoshua ben Chananya, "My time alo asis the Be'avidan." We had this phrase once earlier in the Masech, the Be'avidan, where we said that there was a place where they used to debate philosophy. They used to have these, it was like a town hall type of place. Everyone would come together to hear. We have it nowadays with like Dawkins and these guys who whoever they are, the people nowadays who debate whether or not there's such thing as God. So similar. So he says, "Why weren't you there, Chanina? Yoshua ben Chananya, why weren't you there?" Amar le Tor Teleg. Tor in Aramaic is a mountain. Teleg, Tuf and Shin, Sheleg. The mountain has snow. Namely, my hair is white. I'm an old man. Sachruni Glidin. Rashi, Sachruni Glidin, 6 lines down. Dibur Hamasvel Sachruni Glidin. Sivivosav Shelhar, the surrounding of the mountain, Mila'o Kerach. Klomar, as if to say, Sfami Uzikani Hilbinu, my beard is also white. Back in the Gemara, Kalbohi Lo Nevachin. A dog that does not bark, namely, Tachnohi Lo Tochnin, my teeth are I'm an old man, my teeth are not even grinding anymore. I didn't come to the Be'avidan because I'm an old man. Be'rab Amre, Adelo Avidna Bechishna. Even things that I didn't lose, I'm still looking for them. The famous examples of the keys that you're looking for that are in your hand, those kinds of things, the senior moments as we call them. And that's what Rav said was going on here in regards to Yehoshua ben Chananya and why he did not go to the Bey Avidan. Says the Gemara, Tanya, the Brisa writes, Rabbi Yossi bar Kisma Omer, Tava tre mitlas, 2 is better than 3. This is a reference to someone who could normally walk on 2, but now he needs a cane as his 3rd support beam. He has his 2 legs and he has a cane. Tava tre mitlas, it's better to have 2 than 3. It's better to not have a cane. Vaila lechada de azlav lo asya. Nebuch, wow, it's terrible. There's one thing that goes and we never get it back. Maihi amar Reb Chizda yankusa, your youth. You never get that back. Ki asa Rabdimi Amar Yankusa Kalila Devarda. Youth is like this beautiful collection, a bouquet of roses. We know that it doesn't last, and soon the petals will wilt. Savusa, from the word like Saba, if you were an old gentleman, Kalila Dechilfa. That's like a bouquet of thorns and thistles, of this type of thing that just kind of gets harder as it goes along. It's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more difficult. You should make sure to chew your food with your teeth well. And then you will find that you'll have all of the benefits of the food. You will be satiated with bread, it will be good, and there will be no bad. Amar le Shmuel Rabbi Yehuda, Shinana, bright one, Sharei Sakayich, the ayalachmach. Open up the bag and fill it with bread, a mashal for eating. You should eat. You should make sure that you're getting in good food. And another reference to the age of 40, ad arba'in shanin michlamale. Up until age 40, food is good for you. Mikan va'elech mishtemale. After that age, drinking is good for you. Now, I don't want there to be any improper inferences here. This is not talking about alcoholic beverages. It's talking, potentially not, it doesn't say. But I presume it's also talking about just being hydrated in general. And maybe that's a modern day influence, I'm not sure. But the Gemara doesn't say. And this Gemara we're about to start now, almost a third of the way down in Kufnan Beis Medalef, is the classical trash talk, mic drop moments that you will see in the Gemara. It's a strange conversation. Amar lehahu goza'a, the Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha. There was a man who was a goza'a. Rashi writes that he was sterile. He wasn't able to have children. And Rabbi Shua ben Korcha, according to many, the word Korcha is from the word Karesh, that he was bald. So he was Korach. So what did one guy? By the way, Yoshua ben Korcha, mehacha lekarchina, from here to the city of the bald people. Kamahave, how far away is it? How far away is it, Mr. Bald Guy? He goes, oh, Amar le kimehacha leguznia. It's from here to the same city of all of the sterile people. You're going to knock me for being bald? Yeah, it's the same distance to your city. Everybody take a deep breath. Amar le mina, or tzeduki, different languages found in the Gemara. The heretic said, bracha karcha, a bald goat is worth be'arba. Amar le ikra shalifa bitmanya. Yeah, but one that's sterile is worth even more. Okay, just they're kind of chiding each other. So this guy, the goza'a, the person who was a min, the heretic, chazia de lo sayim misane. He saw that Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha was not wearing shoes. Amar le, he guy's like, oh, I have a great opportunity here. Amar le, de al sus melech. If you see a person on a horse, he's a king. De al chamor ben chorin. A person's riding on a donkey, all right, he's a free person. Udeman ale beriglohi. Someone who's wearing shoes on their feet, bar inish, at least he's a person. De lohav elohav, you have none of them. Forget you. De chafir v'kavir tavmine. Being buried might even be better than you. All right, he feels good about himself. Amar le, Yoshua ben Karcha comes back to him with a very painful response. Guza, sterile one. Tlas amrisli, tlas shamas. You said 3 things to me, I'm going to share 3 things with you. Hadras panim zaking. What makes a face beautiful is a beard, and you can grow one. Simchas lev isha. What makes a person's heart happy is an isha, and you're not allowed to marry because you're a sris, you're sterile. And nachlas Hashem banim, the inheritance of Hashem is children, and you're not able to have children. Baruch hamakom shemenach hamikulam, and he lets go of the microphone. Very powerful. What this whole thing requires is Omer Darsheni. You have to look at the Meforshim here, and we'll see a Rabbeinu Chananel here briefly that will give us a little bit of context. Omar le karcha mitsuyana. Karcha, you're being so difficult. You're pushing back on me. Amar le ikra shlifa tochacha. You're not talking nicely. I'm trying to show you that this is not enjoyable. And if you take a look at the Rabbeinu Chananel, this is the Rabbeinu Chananel. So it may be a little bit hard to find. I'll read it for you. It's the Dibur Hamaschil that says Amar le. Where is it? Here you go. Amar le karcha matsui. And toward the end of that, it says Einam divrei riv ela divrei tochacha. The last few words there. He was just pushing back to show him that the way he was talking was not the way that he should be talking. This was all tochacha. This was not him being a mean person. You're talking to me like, how does it feel when I do that to you? That's not enjoyable. You're making fun of the fact that I'm bald. Would you like if I made fun of you that you're not able to have children? It's terrible. So that's what the Rabbeinu Chananel says is going on here. Very interesting dialogue. All right, let's continue in the Gemara. Halfway down, we are, where are we? We are 2 lines before the thin line, the wider lines of the Gemara. Amar le Rabbi the Reb Shimon ben Chalafta. Mipnemalu hikbalnu panecha beregel kedach shikbilu abosai la'abosecha. Rabbi said to Reb Shimon ben Chalafta, our families used to visit each other frequently on the Chagim. But why didn't I see you this year? Why didn't you come to visit? Amar le silaim na'asu givohim. The small little rocks appeared as though they were very large. Namely, it's hard for me to walk. Krovim nasu rechokim. Even a close distance feels right now very far. I'm an old man. Mishtayim nasu shalosh. We already saw this reference. I'm no longer 2-legged. Now I'm walking with a cane. Shalosh. And mesim shalom bebeis batel is that I have to make sure that I'm at home to be available at home to my wife, so I'm not going anywhere. It says the pasuk reads, again, I'm going to read it inside here, the subru de lasayim bashuk, closing the doors of the marketplace, elunakav of shal adam. This is that when a person gets older, it's sometimes less easy to go to the bathroom. Continues the pasuk, bishval kol hatachana, bishvil korkavan she'enotach on my stomach, it doesn't grind up food the way that it used to. Continues the pasuk, v'yakum lekol hatzipor. What does it mean that you wake up to the sound of a bird? Because you sleep lighter. Shafilu tzipor mina arto mishenas. You hear a little bird outside chirping in the wee hours of the morning. It wakes you up. The last part of the pasuk, v'yishachu kol benos hashir. What does that mean? Shafilu kol shirim v'shiras. I hear people singing, but domos alav kishochas. It's almost like they're whispering. It's a bit of a contradiction in terms. The previous one you said you wake up from the birds. And now you're saying I can barely hear you singing. So maybe these are different phases of age. However, we would have to learn the pasuk. Ve'af Barzilai Hagiladi Amar LeDavid. When David invited Barzilai Hagiladi to come eat at his table, he said, Ben Shmonim Shana Anochi Hayom Ha'ida Ben Tov L'Ra. I'm an old man. I don't know the difference between good and bad. Mikan Shedaitan Shal Zakenim Nishtanos. That those who are older sometimes have changing brains. The next pasuk reads, Im Yitam Avdecha Asher Uchal Ve'es Asher Ochel Ve'es Asher Eshteh Mikan Sifsosehen Shal Zakenim Mitraftos. That their lips are split, that their lips are cracking, it becomes difficult to eat. Next pasuk reads, Im Eshma Od Bekol Shirim Veshiros Mikan Shos Neim Shal Zakenim Miskaptos. That as they get older, their ears get heavier. I don't think it's literal. I think, of course, it means it's a little difficult to hear. Now, the Gemara is going to go back on the conversation about Barzilai Hagiladi, who said he was old, and we learned from that their brains change as they get older. Amar Rav Barzilai Hagiladi Shak Rahaba. He was a liar. Diahi Amsa Dahav Yubei Rabbi. There was a maidservant that worked in the house of Rabbi. Bastishim Visartin Shni. She was 92 years old, and she was working in his house. Vahabas Ta'ama Kidra, and she was the one who tasted food. So you told me a little bit ago that people lose their ability to eat normally. That's not true. This woman was 92 and she was plugging away. Perfect. Rava Amar Barzilai Agiladi Shatu Pizima Haba. Barzilai Agiladi was Shatu Pizima. He was involved in very inappropriate things. B'chol Shatu Pizima Zikna Kofetzes Allah. When a person is involved in the inappropriate, their age jumps. It makes them age more quickly. Tanya Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi Omer. We're about 3/4 of the way down. He said, Talmidei Chachamim Kol Zman Shemazkinin. As Talmidei Chachamim age, Chachmani Tosefes Bahem. They get wiser as they get older. Shneemar, as the pasuk says, Bishishim Chochma ve'orech Yamim Tivuna. That as you get older with orech Yamim, you get Tivuna. What about ve'amei haaretz? Kol Zman Shemazkinin. As they get older, Tipshus Nitosefes Bahem. They get less smart. Mesir, it's removed from them, they are not holding. The pasuk reads, Gami Gavoa Yiru. What does that mean? Again, referencing old people. Even a small little, we say, making a mountain out of a molehill. This is that for the aged. It's hard for them to walk. What does that pasuk mean? They get very nervous. They get very worked up about going out, about walking. It's very hard for them, and therefore they do so less. Pasuk reads, "Vaynatza shaked." What is that talking about? Zo kiliboses. That's a reference to a person's hips. Vayistakel, vayistabal hachagav. That is elu agavos. That's a reference to the backside of a person. This v'safar. How does this word pasuk read? V'safar, v'sefer. Just look down. Where is this? This is pasuk. That's here. I don't remember how it reads. Here it is. The Safer Vayistabel Hechagav. So that we said was that, and then the Sefer Ha'aviona Zochemda. That is a reference to a person's sexual desires. Rav Kahana have a pasuk sidra kamei de Rav. Rav Kahana was teaching this Torah, this pasuk. He was teaching it in front of Rav. Kimata lahai kram, and he got to this pasuk. Nagid ve'asnach. Rav let out this krechts as he got to that pasuk. And the way it was done was in the following way. Omar, that where Rav Kahana was able to infer Shema Mina, Bata Le Chemde de Rav. He no longer has a desire for those things. He no longer has a desire for women. So that's what the pasuk says. We're going to speak about this more because after all, Amar Rav Kahana, my dechsiv. What does the pasuk mean when it says Ki Hu Amar Vayehi, that he made a dictate about this? Zo Isha. We'll see what that means in a moment. The rest of the pasuk is a reference to children. Tana, we learned in the Tanaim, Isha, a woman, attractive as she may be on the outside, she's filled with the same digestive tract as every other person on the planet. And obviously homiletically, and she's filled with blood. She menstruates. Nevertheless, people chase after her. It's not normal that we would do that because the innards are not much different and not appealing. Nevertheless, everyone pursues her, and that's what the pasuk means, is that it's not natural. It's kihu amar vayehi. It's a tzivui from Shamayim that we should have such a desire. After all, we know that in a healthy dynamic, people who have family members that are otherwise attractive, to have an attraction to them is strange. It's off book. It's not right. It's immoral, and all the other appropriate phrases that belong in place there. So how is it that our brains parse? And the answer is that it was a tzivui from Shamayim that we should have a Yetzer Hara for Nashim. Says the Gemara 5-6 lines from the bottom of the page toward the end of the line. Ki holech adam el beis olama, when a person passes away, Amar Rav Yitzchak, Alamin shekol tzadik b'tzadik nosnin lo mador lefi chvodo. Every righteous person gets their appropriate place. Mashal lemelech shenichnas huba avadav leir. It's similar to a king and all of his servants who go into a city. Shein nichnas, and when they go into the city, kulan b'shar echad nichnas. And when they walk in, everybody's traveling together. They all walk as a group. But when they go to sleep at night, shein lanin. The king gets the suite, everybody else gets the rooms around him, but everybody has their own room. Next, 5 lines from the bottom. What does the pasuk mean? That which people do when they are children, darkens their face when they are older. Rashi, 3 lines from the bottom on the Tosfos side. There's no Tosfos here. So on the outer left column, Dibur Hamaschil, mashchirin panav, matish kocho. They make us weak. It uses up all of our strength, and that it impacts us when we are older. Bamar Rav Yitzchak, kasha rima lemeis. A worm to a dead body is similar to kimachat bebasar, as if a kibasar hachai, like putting a needle into the flesh of a live person. Shenemar ach besaro alav yichav. His flesh will hurt, even though he's not alive. It's still painful for him if there's a rima, if there's a worm. Amar Rav Chizda nafsho shel adam misabelas alav kol shiva. For the entire Shiva, after a person dies, the mace themselves they're aware, they understand what's going on. The nafsho alav se'eval, uchsiv as well, vayas la'aviv evel shivas yamim, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, mace she'ein lo menachamin. If there's a person who dies and there's no one to be menachem him, no one to mourn him, holchen yud b'nei adam v'yoshvin b'mekomo, 10 people should get together and they should sit with him. And in fact, a story to match. There was a person who passed away in the neighborhood of Rabbi Yehuda, and there was no one to mourn him. Kol Yoma, top of Kufnan Beis Mid Beis. Kol Yoma, have a davar in Aramaic is to take, have a davar Rabbi Yehuda be'asara, he would take 10 people, be'yasve be'duchte, and he would go sit there to be menachem the person. After the 7 days, the maze came to Rabbi Yehuda in a dream to Rabbi Yehuda, and he said to him, Tanuach daitecha, you should relax, because shehinachta es daiti, because you took care of me. Sorry, just a quick drink. Fourth line, Kuftan Beis and the Beis. Amar Rabbi Abo, Kol she'omer b'fnei ha-meis, yodeya ad sheyistam ha-gola. Anything that one says in front of a mace, the mace can hear ad sheyistam ha-gola, until they close the golel. To see what this means, that's a machlokes in the Rishonim. Is it the casket? Is it when there's dirt on top? Discussion. Pligi bar Rav Chiya bar Rav Shimon bar Rabbi. Not everyone agreed to this parameter. Chad amar ad sheyistam ha-gola. Some said, like we already saw in the name of Rabbi Abo, that it was when they close the casket. We'll use that as the sheets are just to talk about the Gemara. Echad amar ad sheyisakel habasar, and one says no, for as long as there is flesh on the body, the mace is able to still comprehend what is going on. Because they're still basar, so then he can still hear. So then his nefesh will still be in apelos if they're still flesh. But once you go back into the ground, so then we assume at that point, even if they're still flesh, that the mace is no longer able to hear. We should give back to Hashem that which we were given, the ruach that we were given. Says the Gemara, this is our hashkafik musar for the night. Tenu lo kemo shenasna lach b'tahara. We should give back our neshamas to him, please God, after 120 years, as it was given, and it was given b'tahara, afata b'tahara. What we were given, we should give it back as it is. It's actually, as my Rabbi have said, it's basic v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. ABCs. You were given something, you give it back the way that you got it. The Gemara gives a parable where a king gives out bigdei malchus, he gives out fancy clothes that belong to the king. Pikchen shebahen, the people who are the bright ones, kiplum v'hinichum bekufsa. When you're not wearing them, you fold them up and you place them in a box, you protect them so that the garment, there's less wear and tear. Tipshim shebahen, people who really don't appreciate what's going on. Halchu ve'asu bahen malacha, they just go do whatever they want. They wear this fancy thing to go, change the oil in the car. They're going to get grease all over the garments. Liyamim bikesha melech eskela. After time, the king is going to ask back for the garment. Pikchen shebahen hechzirum lo kshehin meguhatzin. The people who are the smart ones, they're going to return it. Meguhatzin means that they're going to be laundered and pressed. It's going to look perfect. Tipshim shebahen, the less bright crowd. We'll give it back and say, you'll take care of it. You just clean it for me if you don't mind. Samach HaMelech likras pikchen. He was thrilled to see the return of the pikchen, that which the bright people gave back. Because likras tipshin. Al pikchen amar yinasenu kli leotzar v'heim yelchu levatem l'shalom. He says they get to go into the warehouse, they can go into their homes, they get everything. Al tipshin amar kli yinasnu lekobes. We have to go send them to the cleaners. V'heim yischabshu bebeis rasur, and you're going to be trapped in prison. Af HaKadosh Baruch Hu al gufan shel tzadikim omer. Yavo shalom yanuchu al mishkevosam. Yal nishmasan hu omer v'heyesa nafshi adonitziru Rabbi tzur arachayim. This is where we get the language from the Kel Maleh. Shehei nafsho titzur b'tzur arachayim. It comes from this pasuk, and with the intent of this Gemara. But in contrast, al gufan shel rishayim, the people who did not take care of the gift, who omer ein shalom amar Hashem la rishayim. Yal nishmasan hu omer ve'es nefesh oivecha yikla'ena b'soch kaf hakela. The nefesh of the Rasha is going to be flung in a slingshot. This idea I've heard from my Rabbi al pi Kabbalah is that the onesh for lashon hara is this concept of kaf hakela, is to be put into a slingshot and to be slung across whatever the next word means, universe, space. I don't know what the next word should be appropriately, but in concept, it's over a tremendous distance. First of the longest lines, Kufnan Beis and Beis. Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Omer Nishmasan Shal Tzadikim Genuzos Tachas Kisei HaKavod. The souls of the righteous are genuzos, are hidden underneath the chair of Hashem. Shneimar Vayson Nafshi Adonitzu Rabbi Tzorachayim. That's what the pasuk says, and they're all tied under the Kisei HaKavod. V'shal Rishayim Zomamos V'holchos. They're trapped. U'malach Echad Omid B'sofa Olam. The imagery that I just shared with you a moment ago. One malach stands on one side of the olam. U'malach Acher Omid B'sofa Olam. And another malach stands on the other side, and they play catch with his neshama. U'mekal Nishmason Zelazeh. They keep taking a slingshot and they fire the neshama back and forth to one another. A terrible onesh. Amar le Rabbi Rav Nachman shel Beinonima. You told me about the tzaddik and you told me about the Rasha. What about the rest of us? What about the Beinonim? Amar le Ika Shchivna. Had I died, lo amri lechu hay milsa. I never would have been zoche to share this beautiful Torah with you about the Beinonim. Hachi Amar Shmuel. This is what he said. Elu ve'elu, the Rasha and the Beinonim. The Duma Nimsarim. They get given over to Duma. Duma was one of the punishing angels. Halalu yesh lahen manoach. Of them, some have rest, and halalu ein lahen manoach. So the ones that are Beinonim, they're able to get manoach. They can get menucha, and the ones that are Rishayim will not. Amar Rav Mari. This is going to be important to remember his name. It's going to come up again in a few lines. Amar Rav Mari. Rav Mari said, "Asidin tzadikim dehavu afra." The righteous will again become dust of the earth. That they will be returned to the land like they were. Hanhu kifulai. There were some people who were digging in the garden. And they were digging on the property of Rav Nachman. Nachar behu Rav Achai bar Yoshia. And they got a little too close to the burial spot of Achai bar Yoshia. And from the grave, his body grunted at the gardeners, at the people who were digging. They ran out of there and dropped their shovels. Asuva Amrule Rav Nachman, Nachar ben Gavra. We were digging and then someone called out to us. They groaned, they made a sound from the grave. So then Rav Nachman wanted to see what was going on. Asava Amarle, Man Nihu Mar. Who is it that we have awoken from the grave? Who is this? Amarle, Ana Achai bar Yoshia. It's me. It's Achai bar Yoshia. Now, what would your next line have been? Now, when you're a Talmud Chacham, your next line is a Chazal. And that's exactly what I would have been like, wow, I cannot believe you're standing up and dead. But that's not what he said. Amar le, wait a minute, you're violating Chazal. V'lav Amar Rav Mari Asidei Tzadike Dehavu Afra. Don't you hold like Rav Mari, who says that when a tzaddik dies, they're going to become dust. You're a full body. How did that happen? Amar le, Umanu Mari Delo Yadanu. I don't even know who you're talking about. He lived after me. I have no idea who he is. Amar le Vakruksiv. It's a pasuk. B'yashuv ha'afar al ha'aretz ksheya. Forget about Rav Mari. It's a pasuk. How is it that your body is still your body? We have a pasuk that says that when tzaddikim die, that they become like Ke'afra de'ar, they become like the land. Omar le yasher koach de'akar yecha Koheles. I'm glad that you read Koheles, but you clearly didn't read all of Tanakh. Lo akar yecha Mishlei. You forgot to read the book of Mishlei, the book of Proverbs. Dechsiv urekavat samos kina. When do bones decay? When there's jealousy. Kol mishi yesh lo kina belibo. Anyone who has jealousy in their heart, then atzmosav markivin. Then when they die, their bones will be markivin. Their bones will rot. But kol she'ein lo kina belibo, like me, says Achai bar Yoshia, I never had jealousy in my bones, and therefore ein atzmosav markivin. Therefore, my body is still full. So just to make sure that this wasn't some type of unique dream, Gishashe, he reached out and touched the mace to make sure that he was in fact mace. Chazia the ispe mashasha, and he noticed it was actually really happening. This seems to be a real story. Amar le lekumar legave debisa. Why don't you just get up and walk in the house? If you could stand up here on your grave, then just come inside. Come. You're alive in some way. I don't understand what the problem is at this point. If you're talking to me, you may as well come live your life. Do some mitzvos. Amar le galisa daitach de'afilu nevi'ei lo karisa. Forget about not having learned Mishlei. You haven't learned any of Tanakh either. You haven't learned Ksuvim. You haven't learned Tanakh. What kind of person are you? What is this? The pasuk says, "Vidatem ki ani Hashem b'fischias kibrosechem." Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can open up a kever. Now this is nes already that we're talking, but I'm not allowed to leave where I am right now. The psichas kever, the opening of a grave by Tchias HaMesim, is only by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Amalei v'aksiv ki afar atav el afar tashuv. But it says that at some point you're going to be afar. When is that? Amar le, the mace said back to him, Havu shah achas kodem Tchias HaMesim. Right before Tchias HaMesim will be this momentary moment where we become into afar, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will again, derech nisim, please God, very soon in our days, bring us to the point of Tchias HaMesim. We're going to stop here. We'll pick up again tomorrow night with Daf Kuf Nun Gimel and Kuf Nun Daled Amud Aleph. Wishing you all a beautiful night.